So this year I auditioned for 4 different professional Christmas shows, which I think is the biggest number of professional Christmas contracts that I've ever auditioned for. So I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've also learned a lot through having so many different auditions throughout different times of the year, because I feel like auditioning for a Christmas show can be quite different and can require different skills. So I thought I could talk about that in this video. And for context, like many people I guess who go into acting, some of my early opportunities and first opportunities to get involved in acting was in Christmas shows, because I feel like as a child that is the type of show and the time of year where you're most likely to be able to get involved in theatre. So there's pantos, there's loads of different kinds of shows where there are community casts of children at Christmas. So I was doing the more kind of A Christmas Carol, Wind in the Willows. I wasn't doing the really kind of melodramatic, less naturalistic forms of acting, which I feel like has been a shift when I've started auditioning for more professional roles, because then I'm no longer a child, obviously, so I'm more auditioning to do shows for children where it is less naturalistic, and I'm not auditioning at the moment for as many of those naturalistic performances. So that leads on to my first point that I've kind of learned, I guess, which is that there are so many different styles to tell the same stories. Like there's a lot of different performances of A Christmas Carol, for example, but they could all be in such different styles, and that's what I've really learned in auditioning for different things, is to really research into the company and into the style, because some of these will be focused more on clowning, some of them will actually be more naturalistic, some of them will be more of a focus on actor, musician elements, some of them will be more commedia dell'arte. There's so many different types of theatre you can perform at Christmas, and not all of them are naturalistic, because I feel like, for example, in summer there's a lot of outdoor performances, or there's a lot of new writing which involves you potentially having to use a different skill set and perform a bit more naturalistically and realistically, whereas there's a lot more of a bigger performance that's required for a lot of these shows, which is something I've really learned, to really focus on what kind of direction they want that bigger performance to be in. And do I need to be thinking about bringing a clowning performance? Do I need to think about having a lot of elements of physical comedy, or is that not what they're looking for? So I've become more conscious of the kind of style of the company and trying to fit myself into that in the audition. And I think that's like something you should always really do, but it's something that has more of an emphasis at Christmas, because there's so many different ways people could take these stories, and there's so much more of that kind of less naturalistic, over-the-top style compared to other times of year, so it's something you've got to think about a bit more. Also, for auditions for Christmas shows, I am having to sing more than I ever have to for any other shows any other time of year. Like, most of these shows involve singing, so I think that's something to be aware of. And sometimes they'll tell you what song they want to hear. Sometimes they might want to hear a pop song if you're auditioning for a panto, or they might give you the option to choose a song, and they might request you to sing a Christmas song. That happens quite a few times. I've been asked to self-tape a Christmas song, so I think that's important to think about, because like when you're preparing your singing rep, just at other times of the year, you never really think that you might need a Christmas song to audition with, but I think it's something that's actually important to think about. And maybe there's not just one song that works for all of the different shows. You could just do it one song in a different style for each of them, but I think it's just good to think about what Christmas songs they are, what has a good story, what has a good contrast, what has a good high energy vibe to it if it's that kind of show, and just thinking about that, what's a good song to perform if you're auditioning for a children's Christmas show, because I like to use I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, which not everyone knows that song, but it's a kind of good children's story song. But also there are other songs. All I Want for Christmas Is You has a bit of contrast to it, because like at some point she's more desperate than others, so you can play with that. But then some of them actually don't have much variety at all, and it would be hard to find contrast within them because they're quite repetitive. So that's something to just think about and maybe start preparing or having ideas of different Christmas songs that you could use to audition with. Another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of these companies will do a Christmas show every year, so they may be looking to hire people who they might want to be working with for multiple years and multiple different shows. Like, they are looking for people to work with, they're not just looking for a final result and a performance. So that's a few of the different things that I've learned through the various different Christmas audition processes I've done throughout this year. And I feel like I'm trying not to compare myself to people who actually booked the roles, because also a lot of those people are just people who are more established in the industry as well, and people who have been graduated a few years and have been auditioning for quite a few years for Christmas shows. So I'm trying not to get disheartened, and also I managed to take the pressure off myself a bit because I had opportunities for other work throughout the Christmas period. So I knew that if I didn't get any of these shows, that I would still have work over Christmas. So I think it's really important when there's so many auditions to try to not put the pressure on yourself. And I think it really helps having so many different auditions, because I used to be really scared, for example, to sing in auditions, and then like I was having an audition one week having to sing, and then the following week I also had an audition having to sing. So I think having so many auditions kind of helped me in a way take the pressure off and be so intimidated and overthinking certain elements. Like, I'm not usually scared for auditions, but singing used to scare me now more than it does a bit in auditions, because it was a great opportunity to get used to it, and it's a great learning experience I've had this year. So I'm just really grateful for the experiences I've had and for actually being in the room, because I feel like a lot of Christmas and Christmas shows is about the energy that you have. So I feel like I've found that a lot of these have been in the audition room, or I have been recalled, to be fair, for quite a few of these different Christmas shows. So I've ended up after the self-tapes in the audition room, which I think is really nice to get to meet all of these different companies. So hopefully I will book more work in the future. And if you want to see where I go in the future and if I book more work, then please do support me and subscribe. And thank you so much to everyone for watching. If you want to share your audition experiences or your thoughts in the comments, please do, because I love chatting in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!